Hi, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my Aetherdrift set review. These are all the black cards in the set, and I'm going to be looking at this from a limited perspective. So we're only talking about draft and sealed for this whole thing, and we are doing just a classic A to F grading scale. So A's are bombs; these are awesome. These are like first pickable cards. B's are cards that you like a lot, and these will pull you into that color. C's are all like these are great cards, like very bread and butter. You put these in your decks often. D's are all cards that you hope you never have to play, and F's you absolutely should not play these. These are the worst. All right, starting off, we have Engine Rat, which is a single black for a 1/1 creature zombie rat. It has Death Touch, and it also has an activated ability 5 and a black. Each opponent loses 2 life. This seems fine. Having the 1 mana like Death Touch creature in black is very normal. We're used to having this type of card. The extra ability is nice, but hopefully you're not in the point of the game where you actually have to activate this because it's quite expensive. But this is just like a C. Like you'll play this in your early decks, and it trades off with anything that costs more than it. So yeah, it's a solid C. We're happy with that. Next card is Grim Bauble. It's a single black for an artifact. When this artifact enters, target creature and opponent controls gets -2/-2 until end of turn. It also has an activated ability of 2 and a black. You can tap it, sacrifice it to surveil 2. This is awesome. This card is fantastic. This is like a B, B minus. Like I will be picking this pretty highly. It's like a dead weight, but it also gets your artifact count up. It sacrifices itself to put cards into your graveyard for all the graveyard shenanigan stuff that we're looking to do. This card seems really good and probably one of the best black commons that we have. Next up, we have Deathless Pilot, which is 1 and a black for a 2/2 creature zombie pilot. This creature saddles mounts and crews vehicles as though it had power 2 or greater. That's just a thing that pilots can do. And it also has an activated ability 3 and a black. Return this card from your graveyard to your hand. This is like, I guess it's a lot you get for like a 2 mana creature. 4 mana to return to your hand is a lot, but it will be helpful in a pinch. I'm sure it will do work in the graveyard decks where you're throwing cards into your graveyard. Like being able to dump this into your yard, you're pretty happy to have it there because you will get value from using it later. But it's still like a C. It's not really exciting. You'll play it, but it's fine. The best part about this card is actually it is a 2-power pilot, which most of the pilots are 1 power. So this does get to crew vehicles with 4 crew and mount saddles with saddles mounts with saddle 4. So that is something, but in the end, just like a filler C card. Next card is a Maximum Overdrive. This name is ridiculous, but it's 1 and a black for an instant. It says put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains Death Touch and Indestructible until end of turn. Yeah, this card's like the black combat trick, and this is pretty good. It does put a +1/+1 counter on your creature, so it is able to keep things around. Helps either the vehicle that you crewed to be stronger, or even just a creature being able to crew a little bit higher. Maybe that's something we're interested in. Yeah, you're not gonna pick this highly though. This will come around. I don't think you're obsessed with this card. So yeah, like a C minus. It's fine, but like if I don't have this in my deck, I'm fine. If this isn't in my deck, we don't really care. Next card is Wreckage Wickerfolk, which is 1 and a black for a 1/3 artifact creature Scarecrow with flying, and says when this creature enters, surveil 2. Okay, yeah, this is something for sure. A 2 mana 1/3 flyer is probably pretty good. Black does care about dealing damage to your opponents every turn, so it has like the speed mechanic is part of black. It's one of the things that it cares about. So that is good. It also is an artifact, and it also surveils. So it has homes in a lot of different decks. This is probably like a C plus. I was originally thinking like a C, but the fact that it's a cheap card that fits into multiple decks, I think we're pretty happy with this. So yeah, this is a C plus, I'd say. Next card is Spin Out. 1 black for an instant, destroy target creature or vehicle. So they did it. This is murder, but better. Just strictly better murder. It hits more stuff. This is like a B level card. I think that we'll be pretty happy with murder in this set just because there's a lot of like crew and like your creatures are better when you have more creatures, and being able to blow out a whole turn where your opponent had to like tap some creatures down to saddle something or crew something and then attack and you just blow up their whole attack. nukes their whole turn, gets rid of their threat. It also can destroy vehicles before they're able to be crewed, and so you don't have to worry about like tapping out for something. You can like if your opponent doesn't have a creature and their vehicle's just sitting there like kind of mocking you, you can kill it and before you have to play your threats, or you don't have to worry about holding up your murder for the time it actually gets activated. So yeah, this is a B. I think we're happy with this card. B minus. It is 3 mana. It is double black, so that is one thing. So maybe we knock off a few points for that because double pip cards can be hard to be able to cast on time. Next card is Grim Javelineer, which is 2 and a black for a 3/2 creature human warrior. It says whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+0 until on a turn. When that creature dies this turn, you surveil one. Blech. What? Like most of the time when we have this ability where it's like attacking creatures get +1/+0, I'm looking for the word death touch on this card. I thought it was going to say like it gets +1/+0 and death touch. You know, that's great. Being able to like disincentivize your opponent from actually wanting to block your creatures so you can like get up your speed and whatever. Sure, your creature dies and you surveil, but I don't know how useful that is. It's also just like a 3/2. It does crew for 3, so maybe it'll do something, but it's 3 mana. I'm not, this is like a C minus. It's fine, but it's close to a D, but I think it's, because it's 3 mana, I think it might be okay. Next card is Mutant Surveyor, which is 2 and a black for a 2/3 creature, Mutant Scout. It has Start Your Engines. All right. This is our first black card that actually has Start Your Engines. So that is good. You get to start your speed at 1, and then each turn you deal, or your opponent loses life on your turn. Very important, on your turn. You go up speed, and then you have a max speed of 4. This card also has an activated ability for 2 mana. This creature gets +1/+1 until on a turn, and then at max speed, this is part of their Surveyor cycle. If it's in your graveyard, you can pay 3 mana, exile it from your graveyard, and then you draw a card. So I definitely like that part of it. Having cards that come down early, help you get max speed, and then actually have an ability when they're in your graveyard, so you can trade them off. You don't have to worry about, oh well, if I trade off this creature when I get max speed, it doesn't really matter anymore. This actually does. I do think of the Surveyor like cycle, this one's that we've seen so far, this one's not super exciting. The 2 mana pump ability is like, it's so expensive. Like, sure, you can attack into your opponent, and like there are ways for this to be like good, but in the end, I'm not obsessed with this. I kind of like the other ones better, so this is just like a C, it's a C. All right, next card is Risky Shortcut, which is 2 and a black for a sorcery. Draw 2 cards, and then each player loses 2 life. Each player. Okay, so this is like Read the Bones, but both players lose 2 life. Like, it's divination, but better, right? And so I think that this card is quite good. The biggest thing about this is that, like, sure, you lose 2 life, but we're used to that in black, losing life to draw cards. But your opponent loses life, which also helps your speed. So being able to play something that starts your engines, play this draw spell that also, like, helps you get max speed, I think that's great. I like this as, like, a C+. I'm not always obsessed with, like, draw spells like this that are sorcery speed, but hey, you know, it helps you with your plan. Like, you don't even have to have creatures to continue your speed plan. Great. I like this. All right. Next card is Pact Doll Terror, which is 3 and a black for a 3/4 artifact creature toy. It says whenever this creature or another artifact you control enters, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So I think this card is fine. Sure, 4 mana 3/4, that's like a fine body, but it's expensive. It does the thing where you get to, like, obviously they think that this card was going to be too busted if it was cheaper. A lot of times we get this card, we had similar ones at 2 mana in like Duskmourn, so they made this twice as much mana, and that's like kind of the deal breaker here. It will go into artifact decks, and it can kill your opponent, and it does help your speed. So all of those things together makes this a playable card, but I still think it's a C-. Like, we're not super stoked to play this. And if your plan is to play this and then play a bunch of artifacts and win the game, I think that's just a bad plan. I don't think that should be what you're trying to do. So C-. You will see this card being played, but I don't know. Next card is a Ripclaw Wrangler, which is 3 and a black for a 4/3 artifact vehicle. When this vehicle enters, each opponent discards a card, and it has crew 2. Um, yeah, okay. 4 mana for like a burglar rat effect with like a body that's fine, but you need something else to crew it. I don't know. D. This is gonna go late in packs, and you're probably not gonna want to put this in your deck. Next card is Streaking Oil Gorger, which is 4 and a black for a 3/3 creature vampire with flying and haste. It has start your engines, so that's good. 5 mana to start your engines, but all the cards that care about speed do start your engines, so what are you gonna do? Anyway, if you have max speed, this creature has lifelink. So it's a 5 mana 3/3 flying haste lifelink creature. I don't know if this is actually the like payoff we want for the like speed decks in black. It seems fine, but I don't know. I don't know. It will swing games at some point, maybe, but this is like a C minus. Like, I hope I don't have to put this in my deck, and I'm hoping that this isn't like my payoff for like having max speed. But if it is, I just feel like it's a disaster. All right, next card is Siphon Fuel, which is 4 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -6/-6 until end of turn. You gain 2 life. So this kills just about everything. And you get to gain some life with it. It is instant speed. It's a single black mana. But this is kind of our run-of-the-mill 5 mana kill spell in black. It's fine. Yeah, this is like a C. All right, next card is Chitin Gravestalker, which is 5 and a black for a 5/4 creature insect warrior. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact and or creature card in your graveyard, and it also has cycling for 2. All right, so this is one of the payoffs, like the common payoffs for like dumping cards into your graveyard, surveilling. It's like the blue-black mechanic and probably like the green-black one too. It's it's an okay body. Like it's a 5/4 is not as exciting as like a 5/5. Having that extra point of toughness would be huge because this does trade down a lot. And it has cycling, but like I don't know, C minus. Again, like I'm not the top end of these black cards. I'm not super obsessed with. Like all these commons are pretty brutal. Next up, we have the uncommons, starting off with Hellish Sideswipe, which is a single black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. All right, we're used to this kind of thing. It says, destroy target creature or vehicle. If the sacrificed permanent was a vehicle, draw a card. Okay, all right. That part is pretty interesting. This is already we know this is basically like we're 2-for-1ing ourselves because we're playing a card from our hand and sacrificing something. Usually we hope we're just sacrificing some kind of token or whatever, but a lot of the time we don't have a ton of tokens. This is a way to do like, okay, we are able to sacrifice our artifacts of any kind. That's one thing. They don't have to be vehicles, but if they do happen to be a vehicle, we get a card back, which is pretty huge. Now, I can't really think of any vehicles we're happy sacrificing, so there is that part of it. Maybe if we're like reanimating stuff, we're okay with that. But I think being able to draw that card in like terrible scenarios where your board is like 0 creatures and you have a vehicle and you're like, please let me just do something. You draw this and you are still able to like kill something and draw another spell, which could be a threat. I don't know. I like this. This is probably, I'm still going to say like a B in the decks that it wants to be in, which I'm assuming is probably like red-black, where you like want to do everything you can just to kill your opponent's stuff. Or you can steal your opponent's stuff and sacrifice them. Things like that. So we're sticking this at B. It's like a strong removal spell, but you do have some hoops to jump through. But I like it. I like the extra tacked on draw card. Anytime something says draw a card, we're pretty happy about it. All right, next card is Intimidation Tactics. It's a single black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it. Exile that card, and it has cycling for 3. Okay, it does hit your opponent's artifacts and creatures, which is good. It does exile them, so it gets away from like their reanimation stuff. It has cycling when it's bad, but I don't want to play this. Most of the time, hand hate cards like this are just not super good. It does hit the things that you would want it to hit. Like, Duress is fairly bad in limited, so this at least hits their threats. But I don't know. D plus. Like, you might play this sometimes, but I would hope not to. Next card is Locust Spray, which is a single black for an instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, and it also has cycling for a black. This card is pretty interesting. I do like being able to snipe X1s with cards like this, so that's pretty fun. And whenever it's just terrible in your hand, you can just cycle it for a single mana, which is exactly the amount of mana I want to spend to cycle something like this. But it's still a C-. Like, you're probably not going to pick this very highly unless there is some reason in the format where we have to kill specific X1s, but I don't know, seems meh. Maybe it fits into some of the discard decks or whatever, but no, it's not even in that color. The colors for the discard deck is specifically like blue-red, so meh. Next card is Momentum Breaker, which is 1 and a black for an enchantment. It has Start Your Engines. And when this enchantment enters, each opponent sacrifices a creature or vehicle of their choice, and each opponent who can't discards a card. It also has, for 2 mana, you can sacrifice this enchantment, and you gain life equal to your speed. So this is the Start Your Engines card that doesn't have a max speed thing, which is kind of interesting. It's 2 mana, so 2 mana starting your engines, noise. It's also a removal spell, so we don't have to have... Like, you could turn 1, play the Death Touch creature, turn 2, play this, make them sacrifice their creature, attack in, your speed goes up. That is like a scenario that would be very aggressive and very fun. But also, I like starting our speed, even if we don't have an attack this turn. Making them sacrifice something is pretty good. The fact that they can choose between their creature or vehicle is kind of annoying. But the caveat that if they don't have anything, they just discard a card. Okay, this is a card that if they discard a card, I'm totally fine. 2 mana, start my engines, you discard a card. That sounds like a perfectly fine play to me. So we're going to say this like B or C+, I think we're going to call this. It gives them the chance to do stuff, and the sacrificing it to gain life is, how much do we gain at most? Like 4? Like, okay, that's kind of cool, but... in the end, they do have a little too much agency, so yeah, C+ for this. Next card is Wretched Doll, which is 1 and a black for a 3/1 artifact creature toy. It has an activated ability, black, and tap it, and you surveil 1. So this seems like something that we are pretty interested in. A 2 mana 3/1 artifact that also goes and helps you surveil every turn. Yes, you have to pay some mana for it, so that is kind of annoying, but you can do it on your opponent's turn. It crews vehicles at 3. Like, this is a C+. I'm happy with this card. It fits into many different decks, I think. Yeah, this card seems sweet. Next thing is Carrion Cruiser, which is 2 and a black for a 3/2 artifact vehicle. When this vehicle enters, mill 2 cards, then return a creature or vehicle card from your graveyard to your hand, and it has crew 1. Okay. Well, we always like the spells that, like, there tends to be like there's like that Naturalist from OTJ. There's a bunch of cards where like it's in that mill yourself deck where you want to be able to get something back. Now, this doesn't get lands, to be fair, because it is black, so they tend not to do that. But milling yourself and getting creatures or vehicles back to your hand, that's pretty good. Also, it doesn't care if the card that you bring back to your hand is from the milled cards. That is the thing that they've been doing recently, where it's like, mill 3 cards, only return a card from the cards you milled. This just is anything. So it is like a raised dead at the very worst. So I don't know. This card seems pretty good. This is another C+. I think we're pretty happy to have some of these in our deck when we're doing the graveyard shenanigans. So yeah, sweet. Also cheap crew cost, like nice. Nice. Next card is Gastel Raider, which is 2 and a black for a 2/1 creature vampire rogue with Start Your Engines. It says, when this creature enters, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an instant or sorcery card from it. That player discards that card. And then at max speed, it gets +1/+1 and has menace. So with max speed, it's 3/2 with menace. That's an okay body for like 3 mana. We're pretty happy with that part. Its enters the battlefield ability is going to be helpful every once in a while. It's not nearly as good as the ones where we like get to pick kind of anything. There was like a really good lizard that did that in Bloomborough that ended up being phenomenal. I think this is trying to trick you into thinking that it's that. And then there's probably a lot of times your opponent doesn't have an instant or sorcery. Like we've already seen a good amount of like removal spells that are either enchantments or like artifacts or things like that. So, you might not have a target a lot of the time. No, I don't like this very much. This is like a C minus, maybe C minus. I'm not gonna pick this very highly. So yeah, I think it feels like it's kind of trying to trick us. Next card is Hour of Victory. This card's definitely trying to trick us. It is a 2 and a black for enchantment. Start your engines, and it says when this enchantment enters, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And it has max speed. You can pay 1 and a black to sacrifice this enchantment. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is a 3 mana 2/2 token that starts your engines. Okay, don't love that. I guess starting your engine for 3 is fine. The max speed, like extra ability, is that we do get to tutor. But that's obviously the strongest part of this card. I guess maybe late game it's 5 mana tutor, make a 2/2. Tutoring anything. I don't know. This card looks like it's trying to trick you into thinking like, look, demonic tutor, it's on this card, let's play this, let's go get stuff. But in general, playing a card just so you can go draw a different card isn't always the best, especially when you can't abuse it. Like, you can't blink this to do the ability multiple times. It doesn't have any, like, specific, what is it? Parameters for whatever you can pick. You can just pick whatever you want, but I don't know. I don't love it. I think this is a D. I don't think you should probably put this in your deck. Yeah, it's just no. I'm not on it. I'm off it. Just like this card, Kalak Scion, Hunger Tyrant. Sorry, 1 black for a 7/2. So a 3 mana 7/2 legendary creature crocodile, and that's it. It doesn't have any text on the card besides that. So hard to cast. This has 2 black pips in it. It's legendary. There's a whole cycle of these vanilla legendary creatures, but a 3 mana 7/2 looks really exciting. Like, it has huge stats, but like, they're 2-drop trades with this. Sometimes they're 1-drop trades with this. You can kill this with 1 mana in black. We saw that earlier. Also, it's hard to cast. Black. Don't put this in your deck. This is like if this fits into your deck, like, you're pretty upset. I think this is like an F or maybe a D. But like, please don't be putting this in your deck thinking that you're going to smash people for 7. Sometimes you will, but I don't think you should. I think this is very bad. Don't play it. Next card is Ancient Vendetta, which is 3 and a black for a sorcery. It says choose a card name. Oh, here we go. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name and exile them. Then that player shuffles. No, this is an F. This is bad. It's bad and constructed too. It's way too expensive for this ability, I think. Because you're also not blowing anything up or countering something. I will say, it does say choose a card name. So it doesn't say non-land. So there is something where you could, like, I don't know, go rip out a bunch of lands from your opponent, but they probably have their colors by that point anyway, so it's not really... That's like the only corner case, but this is an F. Don't put this card in your deck. Terrible. Next card is Wickerfolk Indomitable, which is 3 and a black for a 4/3 artifact creature Scarecrow. It says, you may cast this card from your graveyard by paying 2 life and sacrificing an artifact or creature in addition to paying its other costs. It goes into the graveyard deck, so it's artifact. Those things are pretty cool. But I don't know. Like, it really wants you to want this to be your threat, and you get to replay it over and over again with tokens and things. I think this will sneak into your decks. It's a C-. I don't really like it, but it has some power to it, some recursion, some stuff. Next card is Back on Track, which is 4 and a black for a sorcery. It says return target creature or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then you create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this token saddles mounts and cruise vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Cool. All right, so this is a way to get back our like vehicles and also have something to crew it. I think that's the most fun situation, is being like, hey, here's this vehicle. All the vehicles I like are like crew cost 3 or less, so the pilot will crew them immediately, and you have a blocker for the turn. Sweet. Okay, I like that. It is 5 mana reanimate, and we saw some other ones and cheaper ones, but this one's, I think the white one is better than this, but in a pinch, one of these might be okay. It, at the very least, it also gives you a 1/1, so that's pretty nice. But ultimately, this is like a C. You won't be too excited if you see this in a pack. Be like, oh my gosh, I got the thing. It will be helpful, but C. Yeah. Risen Necro Regent, which is 4 and a black for a 5/4 creature zombie cat knight. It has start your engines. It also has max speed. At the beginning of your end step, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is the payoff for the getting max speed deck. Like, this is what you want. 5 mana, 5/4, like good big body, but that turn, if you have max speed, like we're always like, obviously we're thinking of this in a max speed thing, and hopefully by that turn you'll be able to trigger this. Make a 2/2 every single turn. There is like one way to make you lose speed. So as long as this creature is on the battlefield, every single turn you're pumping out 2/2s that are untapped. We don't often get zombie like 2/2 zombie tokens that are untapped or can block immediately. So this is awesome. This is exactly what I want for that deck. This is a B level card. This is the card where I'm like, whoa, nobody's playing the max speed deck. This card's awesome. Like, this is it. This is the one. All right. Next card is Sheffet Archfiend, which is 5 black for a 5/5 creature demon with flying. And it says, when this creature enters, all other creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn, and it has cycling for 2. Okay. This is a pretty nice top end. This is probably what we want to be reanimating or playing. It obviously, if you have this card, you can try to work around not making all of your stuff die. Or you can know this and kind of trade off your things so that you just have vehicles, and then you get to slam this guy, wipe a bunch of your opponent's board, and then animate your vehicle and attack. Yeah, I like this, but it is 7 mana in black. Cycling is pretty helpful, so it's, once again, like, it's begging to be reanimated, right? But in the end, this is probably just a C+. I don't think you're going to be super stoked. We see these demons that do stuff all the time. And they're all pretty cool, but if they don't always trade off a card, this won't always hit stuff, or it won't always get rid of things. It is it's a big beefy flyer, but I think it's a C+. We're not obsessed with this card. All right, moving on to the rares, we have Gas Guzzler, which is a single black for a 2/1 creature vampire rogue. It has start your engines. Amazing. Starting our engines on turn 1. Nothing I want to do more than that. This creature enters tapped. Sure. All right. A 2 mana 2/1 in black enters tapped. Yes, that happens all the time. And at max speed, it has a single black for sacrifice another creature or vehicle. Draw a card. Okay. If we do have a bunch of like dorky things around, we can just sacrifice them. This also has that ability we were talking about earlier, where if our opponent like points removal at something, we just pay a black to sacrifice it and draw a card. Like, that is very strong. This card seems awesome. Like, I'm pretty happy with this. This is a B-. Like, I like this card. It's not a huge bomb, but in those aggressive decks, like, if this is in your opening hand, you are just overjoyed. I want to be Gas Guzzling turn 1 all the time. So, B- for the Gas Guzzler. Next card is Bloodghast, which is black and black for a 2/1 creature vampire spirit. This creature can't block. It also says this creature has haste as long as an opponent has 10 or less life. And it has landfall. Interesting ability to have in this set. It says whenever a land you control enters, you may return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is a reprint. We've seen this card before. It's from Zendikar originally. It's quite strong. The biggest thing about this card is that it's double black on turn 2, and that can be pretty hard to actually hit. And then the strength of the card goes down significantly as like the game progresses, right? So if you're playing this on turn 3 or turn 4, you're a lot less excited than if you had it on turn 2. And your mana base probably won't let you be able to do that. The fact that it can't block, it's not crewing big vehicles, like it doesn't have 3 power to do that. And getting it back from the graveyard is really helpful, so it comes back all the time. So you will kind of, like, the biggest thing that this card can do is, like, always attack in, and your opponent has to be like, oh, I have to block this thing again. And then next turn you play another land and you bring it back, and then you get to attack in again. And it means that you're gonna get max speed. That's basically, this is a max speed card. But even in that, I think the mana cost is pretty hard. You want to take this card if you're like heavy black. But for those reasons, like, it's a C. Like, I like this card a lot, but I don't think you should be taking this super early. You have to be in the deck for this card to do most anything. Next card is Quag Feast, which is 1 and a black for a sorcery. It says choose target creature, planeswalker, or vehicle. You mill 2 cards, then destroy the chosen permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. So it just cares about number of cards in graveyard, which is pretty cool. It destroys creatures, planeswalkers, and vehicles, which is what we want, and it does mill stuff. So at the very least, it destroys like a 2 mana thing. But probably by the time you're actually be able to play it, you can hit basically everything you want, besides maybe some of the affinity for artifact cards. But in that deck, this seems pretty good. Like, this is like a B plus. Like, it kills something and continues your your graveyard strategy. So this is a good removal spell. There might be situations where you can't like actually kill something, but if your opponent has a bunch of like graveyard hate, but I don't think we have enough of that where it will matter. So B plus for the Quag Feast. All right, up next we have Cryptcaller Chariot, which is 3 and a black for a 5/5 artifact vehicle. It has menace. It says whenever you discard 1 or more cards, create that many tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, and it has crew 2. All right, so I did say that blue and red were like the discard cards deck. I kind of forgot about this rare, that this is one that does care about discarding cards. So cycling things with this on the battlefield is awesome. And it does make the tapped zombies like we had talked about before. So not as strong as being able to have untapped zombies. But it does just kind of sit there as like an artifact that does things. 5/5's a nice body for 4 mana. Crew 2, it like makes the zombies for you to crew. So that's nice. It also has menace. This is definitely not the Cadillac, though. Asika's Chariot is like leaps and bounds better than this card. And you have to discard cards. Most of your decks, you have to build around this card is the thing. I think in that deck, though, it seems quite strong and will be really annoying if you know your opponent has a bunch of cycling cards, because that's the main reason or way that you're going to be discarding things. This is probably a B minus. They can spit out a bunch of tokens. It's a little slow, though. I will say it's a little slow. But if you have this, you are interested in all the cycling cards a lot higher, and you'll probably just be taking as many as you can. Because being able to make a bunch of 2/2s and still draw cards, like, okay, that's pretty nice. Yeah, B minus for the Chariot. Next card is Curse Cloth Wrappings, which is 2 black for an artifact. It says zombies you control get +1/+1. Okay, well, there's a bunch of zombie tokens, and there's random zombie cats and stuff, so sure, the 4 mana artifact Anthem, okay. It does have an activated ability, though, so it says target creature card in your graveyard gains Embalm until end of turn. The Embalm cost is equal to its mana cost. So if you don't remember, Embalm was from Amonkhet. This is a mechanic where you exile the card from your graveyard, and then you get to you get a token copy of that card, except it's a zombie, but all the other things are the same. Yeah, I mean, replaying all the creatures that you've had die over the course of the game with Curse Cloth Wrapping. It also makes them zombies, which does give them +1/+1, so that's how that all ties in together. But yeah, I like this. The biggest thing is that on the turn it comes down, you might not be able to actually do anything with it. Right, so it's like 4 mana, you tap it, you could play a card, but like turn 6, you play a 2/2 or a 2-drop, I guess. I don't think this is a bomb. I think it's going to be really strong, and it's a card you really want to work, and I'm definitely going to be playing this card. This is like a B plus, though. It's not a super bomb. I don't think you want to first pick this card, but I do like it a lot and think that it will, if the format is slow enough that we go into these grind fests. We do have like gain lands, so maybe that will be part of it. This card makes you basically replay every single creature that you've played during the game, and it is begging to get destroyed, but I still think it's just a B plus. It's not A range yet. Next card is Gonti Night Minister, which is 2 black for a 3/4 legendary creature, Aetherborn Rogue. And it has a couple abilities. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, that player creates a treasure token. All right, that just seems kind of random, whatever. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down. They may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast this spell. Okay, so you will be attacking your opponent, you will be stealing cards from them, and will be making treasure tokens. Sweet. It doesn't really do anything when you just play the card, but if you have anything else going on, and you're going to be prioritizing creatures that have evasion already in the Start Your Engines deck, slam this, attack your opponent, you draw a card, you make a treasure. I don't know. That seems like an A to me. This is so much card advantage. You're stealing stuff from your opponent. Yes, their deck isn't necessarily doing what your deck is trying to do. So drawing a card from your opponent isn't always as good as drawing a card from your deck. I still think this is an A minus though. Like, I like this a lot. You take this early and then you just prioritize being able to like chip in with flyers or do different things. You slam this. It's kind of like Yanling, where you get to like draw cards when you hit your opponent, but you're drawing from their deck instead. There was also possibly a mill potential because you're stealing their cards. I don't know. I like this a lot. I maybe there's a possibility that it's not as good as I think, but A minus. I like this. I like this card. All right, last rare is Demonic Junker. It's 6 and a black for a 4/3 artifact vehicle with affinity for artifacts. So this has the potential to only cost a single black mana. That is super dope. When this vehicle enters, for each player, destroy up to one target creature that player controls. If a creature you controlled was destroyed this way, put a +1/+1 counter on the vehicle. You don't have to blow up your own thing. Oh, it also has crew too. Sorry. So you don't have to blow up your own creature or anything because it just says up to. So this is like this is Dreamland, right? You have 6 artifacts. You play this for 1 mana. It's a 4/3 vehicle crew 2. You blow up one of your opponent's things. That's like a great trade. Even if this is like 3 mana. So let's say you have 4 artifacts out. 2 and a black. Play a vehicle, destroy one of your opponent's things. Pretty good. If you happen to have anything lying around that you don't care about, like a random pilot or something stupid that you don't care about, you can blow it up, make this thing huge, and then crew it with something else. I mean, that's super exciting. Anyway, I don't know. I like this card, and I think this is an A. Like, you can take this early, go into the artifacts deck, blow up stuff, kill your opponent. Love it. Moving on to the mythics, we have The Last Ride, which is a single black for a 13/13 legendary artifact vehicle. It has an ability, the Last Ride gets -X/-X, where X is your life total. It also has an activated ability of 2 and a black, pay 2 life to draw a card, and then it has crew 2. All right, so obviously this card is masquerading as, or it's a callback to Death Shadow, a 1 mana 13/13 that, it isn't as big as it looks, on its face, because if you play it with 20 life, it will just die. The cool thing about this card, though, is that it helps you lose life while you get to draw a card. So it has this activated ability, and it is just a vehicle. You can play this on turn 1. You don't have to wait until it's not going to die, because it won't die because it's just an artifact sitting there. So on turn 1, you play this card. It sits around. Whenever you have the mana, you lose life, you draw cards. Your opponent is in kind of the situation of like, do I want to attack them to let their Last Ride like become this huge thing? I don't know. Like, it seems like a really interesting game once you play this card. And it has a different game than the Death Shadow, where like you're watching your opponent just lose a bunch of life by like fetching and shocking themselves, and then eventually they slam it and it's big. This card can just do value while you're waiting for it to be a huge creature. So yeah, I think this is pretty good. I had this at B+, but I think I talked myself into an A-. This seems pretty good. Being able to have that versatility early in the game and actually play this card, and it's not just rotting in your hand until later in the game. I like it a lot. I think this is cool, and I'll be playing this card. Next up, we have the Speed Demon, which is 3 black for a 5/5 legendary creature demon. It has flying and trample. So this is a 5/5 Flampler. It has start your engines, and it says at the beginning of your end step, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is your speed. This card is actually really, really interesting. So 5 mana 5/5 Flampler, we already like that. Like, that's pretty strong. The cool thing about this card is that, yes, it does have the word like start your engines on it. So you're thinking like, oh, I want to get as much speed as I possibly can. But if you just play this as like your only start your engines card in your deck of like literally anything that has black, you're pretty happy because you want to be able to kill your opponent fast enough that you're not like dying to your card draw. But this always draws you a card. You start your engines, at least you draw one card and lose one life at the end of your turn. It replaces itself immediately. If you do have max speed, yeah, you're going to lose a bunch of life, but you draw a ton of cards. And I think you'll be able to kill your opponent before it actually matters where this is going to kill you. Maybe there's a situation where it does, but no, this card, A+. This card's fantastic. I'm going to be super happy to see this, and there's a lot of good black cards that I'm pretty interested in, so yes. This is so awesome, and I don't have to build around it at all. This can just come down, do what it needs it to do. Fantastic. All right, next card we're looking at Lord of the Undead. It's 1 black for a 2/2 creature zombie. It has the ability other zombie creatures get +1/+1, and you can pay 1 and a black to tap it. Return target zombie card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, this is one of the special guest cards, so we're not going to see this very often, but every once in a while you will. There are a lot of zombie tokens in the set, as we were kind of seeing throughout all the black cards. There are some random zombie cards that you could probably get back with this, but I don't think you want to prioritize this very highly. I put this as a D, like not super happy, but every once in a while this is going to be pretty strong in your deck. It probably ends up as a C. I don't think you should take this early. This should just go to the player that's playing zombies. And you're only going to play that deck like barely ever. So I don't know if taking this early is a good idea at all. That's why I kind of gave it a worse grade. There's not enough of the zombie theme going around. But there are zombie tokens and there are zombies in the set. So maybe it'll prove to be kind of more interesting, but I don't know. I don't think you want a Lord for a creature type that's in a set where you're not specifically always looking for those creature types. Though there is the world where Lord of the Undead and you have the Cursed Cloth wrappings. You go those together. All your zombies get +2/+2, and you get to actually replay your creatures from the graveyard. Like that is a magical Christmas land I want to be a part of. So there's that caveat. In that deck, it's amazing, but you have to have a mythic and a rare. So we're not going to even think about it. All right, last card is Bone Miser, which is 4 and a black for a 4/4 creature zombie wizard. It has a bunch of abilities when you discard cards. So it says whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 zombie. Sure. Whenever you discard a land card, add black to your mana pool. And whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. This is an F. I don't think you should play this. I just don't think you should. Like a 5-mana 4/4, you have to discard things. Most of the time it's just making a bunch of 2/2 zombies, because a lot of the cards that cycle are creatures. I mean, there are some non-creature things cycling to draw cards. I don't know. I don't like it. Maybe it is a D, but I'm already not really obsessed with that deck in general. I don't think that the discard card thing is going to be great. I think this is a trap. Don't put this card in your deck. That's what I have to say. But anyway, folks, that has been all the black cards from Aetherdrift. Let me know what you think about all the ratings that I had. And yeah, if I'm wrong on anything, I'd love to hear your thoughts. More videos are around, and please do all the stuff to help the channel. Subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. But anyway, thank you all. And yeah, more videos to come.